Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Well, maybe not all of you. Maybe there's a certain someone that... Nah, it doesn't matter. Does it? Captain Ronnie, you know of whom I speak. And we won't mention it anymore, will we? Aye. It's a Freedom Friday, folks, so I don't care. Everybody have fun today. Everybody Wang Chung today. Got a drink? Grab it now. See? I obey my own rules. There you go. Cheers, y'all. Highland Ale. Bestowed upon me by my mate Dave in the Royal Oak, who says, I don't drink whiskey, and I won this in a big works bloody whatever competition. He said, I'll bring it in for you. And I thought, oh, I'll never see that. People always say this, oh, I'll bring it, I've got a bottle of whiskey there, I'll bring it in for you. They never do. Well, he did, but here it is, and I've enjoyed quite a bit of it. It's nice. Highland Ale, I've never sampled it before, and it's okay, you know. Cheers, y'all. Now, as I say, it's a Freedom Friday, so you guys do what I do. Go out, have fun, get drunk, do whatever you enjoy doing, but make sure you enjoy doing it. The aftermath may be different. You may regret having enjoyed yourself so much, and it may turn out to be a total disaster. But so what? You enjoyed the process of getting there. It's all about the journey, not the destination. Anyway, speaking of journeys and destinations, I'm going to talk about a guy right now who's got several projects on the go and also a very, very huge undertaking. He's a filmmaker, he's a producer, he's already got several films under his belt. He's Scottish, he's Scottish, and his name is Lawrie Brewster, the film producer. And he's got a few films which are on Amazon Prime and Tubi right now. I'll give you the names of those in a bit. But he's done another movie which is inspired by one of my absolute favourite films of all time. I'm always saying that, aren't I? I've got many favourites of all time. But The Sword and the Sorcerer, 1982, directed by Albert Pyon. Oh my God, with Lee Horsley, Kathleen Bella, Simon McCorkindale, Robert Lynch, Robert Tessier as well. It's a fantastic sword and sorcery movie in a pure Conan riff. You know, a displaced heir to the throne, his family gets wiped out, he then becomes a barbarian, warrior, knight, avenger, who's out for revenge against the bastard who did for his family. But he's a womanizing, brutalizing swine with a real gift of the gab and a twinkle in his eye. If you're into movies with boobs and bums, blood and barbarity and brutality, this is your movie. Its tongue is wedged firmly in its cheek, and it is a delight from start to finish. Very cartoon-like, very comic book. There's a huge flair to it. You're hearing David Whittaker's fabulous score for it right now. Very ebullient, very rousing, very Korngold-esque. You know, it's glorious. But there's lots of sinister stuff to it too. You had Richard Moll playing Zusha, this demon warlock, the sorcerer. You know, you've got the sword, and what a sword it is. It's one of the most ridiculous weapons ever in the history of movie weaponry. It is a 3-bladed sword. Each blade is a broadsword, and 2 of them can be fired off explosively to penetrate enemies from a distance. And even the hilt has a hidden dagger within it. It's wonderful. It's so fucking stupid, but I love the movie, and I have reviewed the movie in the past in a way dim and distant, back in the early days of the Kilt-Man channel. It's there. And I'll tell you right now, in the next couple of days, I'm doing a watch-along party for The Sword and the Sorcerer. We're going to have a great time with that. So this kind of bleeds into me doing that watch-along party. But it's inspired by this guy, Lawrie Brewster, the film producer. Yeah, He's worked with Hex Studios, which was his own company. Did several films. I'll read them out now. The Devil's Machine, Ghost Crew, and The Unkindness of Ravens. The Unkindness of Ravens. I asked that bastard there for a tenner only the other day, and he went, arf, arf. So, The Unkindness of fucking Ravens, I know all about it, mate. Now, they're available on Amazon Prime and on Tubi, so you can watch those. But he has done a pastiche homage, not piss take, although if you look at the trailer, it looks like that, of The Sword and the Sorcerer. What he's done with, he's got quite a good in-house crowd of production crew, writers and stunt people and all that, and he's come out with The Slave and the Sorcerer. Look at the poster where you see it in the thumbnail. It's in the same font as many of the original posters for The Sword and the Sorcerer, and it very, very clearly is in that vogue. Now, The Sword and the Sorcerer, Albert Pyun and producer Brandon Chase, who also did Alligator, which I just did a big, massive review for 1980s classic Gator Fest creature feature Alligator. Please do check that out as well. But Brandon Chase and Albert Pyun worked on this, and it came out before Conan the Barbarian. It came out the same year, 82, but both films have been long in gestation, of course. Conan the Barbarian is an absolute unparalleled classic, of course. But the more fun one, the one that you watch Conan the Barbarian and like you might want the body of Arnie. Well, you might do. Gotta tell you folks, that kind of muscle is too big to move around. You are not going to be able to run. Watch Arnie run. Well, yeah. Never seen him run, have you? You can't fucking run. He's too fucking big. The only time he runs is ironically not in The Running Man, but in Predator, where he genuinely is legging it for his life. But that kind of weight and bulk, you can't shift that round at speed. But I digress. The Sword and the Sorcerer, Albert Pyun, had been bandying this around for 5 years prior, and it came out before Conan the Barbarian, just before, and it was the biggest grossing independent movie of that year, 1982, and it did take a lot of money, and I saw it day one at the cinema, certificate AA in this country, in the UK. I fucking loved it. As I say, tits and bums, blood and gore, and a real devilish twinkle in the eye. It was lampoonish fantasy fun, and it worked on every level. A rousing score. There were great practical effects. Some of the matte shots weren't so good. A lot of it's 99% of it's interior stuff, but it didn't pull no punches, and it just had such a great sense of devilry and pure, who the hell cares? We're having fun. If we're having fun making it, you're going to have fun watching it. And we did. So, what Lawrie Brewster has done is a homage to that. And you've got, what's his name? Is it Tyrol the Slave has got to, I'll put a link to the trailer down below and you can enjoy that to your heart's content. Has got to rescue a princess, a damsel in distress, held by a sorcerer in some dungeon, cave, lair, castle, monolith. And you've got dragons in there, you've got torturers in there, you've got battles aplenty. There's someone in the trailer with their scalp ripped off, and you've got really cheeseball laser effects, which kind of reminds you of Hawk the Slayer, which came out, which predates all of Conan the Barbarian and Sword and the Sorcerer. I mean, before these movies, you had Hawk the Slayer, Excalibur, and Dragon Slayer. These came out before the big sword swinging stuff, of muscle bound guys. But what Lawrie's done here, he loves, he absolutely loves the likes of the Sword and the Sorcerer, but he's paying homage also to the Italian and the cheeseball American Conan rip-offs that came out really too many times throughout the 80s, and there's so many of them. The Barbarian brothers in The Barbarians, dear Christ. But they were fun to watch because you were taking the piss. And Lawrie has got this in spades. He clearly knows, look, these are fun. We're going to have your sorcery, evilness. You're going to have some wicked fights. You're going to have muscle-bound guys and really deliciously, scantily clad ladies. And you're going to have sinister scenarios. You're going to have this fantasy quest. Probably vengeance spewing as well. But we know that you all took the piss out of them movies. But we'll all love them. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do it now. And we're going to use cheeseball effects. Now, what he did do as well, it was a Kickstarter thing for The Slave and the Sorcerer. But it's made, it's out, and, well, it's not out yet. In fact, I think, if I remember rightly, it's going to premiere at the Romford Film Festival. Yeah, Romford Film Festival. On March the 3rd, I think it is, this year, 2024. But the last I saw that he'd written about this movie, that there was working copies on Blu-ray, a Blu-ray of The Slave and the Sorcerer. So you will be able to buy it, certainly. It'll probably be streamed. I don't know all the details. It'll probably be streamed. I'll put the details below. I'll put the link to the trailer, so you can have a good butchers of that and have a laugh. You've got that voiceover guy, that the trailer voice, in a land forgotten by time. A slave will rise to fight, an evil sorcerer. You've got all that taking place there, and it's a fairly lengthy trailer, but it does show a lot of cheeseball antics. But you gotta love it. The fact that Lawrie loves this stuff and has enough passion to I don't give a shit, because I'm gonna make the film that I want to see. Because I love these movies. They were cheeseball back then, although Sword and the Sorcerer has got quite a hell of a cult following, which is understandable, because as cheesy as it is, it knows what it's doing, and I think Lawrie knows what he's doing as well. And that's the crucial element here. I'm making a piss take movie, but it's also a loving, respectful tribute to the films that we grew up on in the 80s. Sword swinging, muscle rippling, buxom exposing, cavalcades of excess, wonderful stuff. It does look cheeseball, I've got to admit that, but that's part of its charm. It's deliberately doing that. You've got to remember that. So I can't wait to see it and review it properly. Now, besides all that, Lawrie Brewster has got something else cooking away. Recently I've talked about the revival of Hammer. John Gore, the appropriately named John Gore, has revived Hammer. And you've got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Eddie Izzard playing the titular character. In a much different, and yeah, I say different, it has been, Hammer did it before with Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, and it touched upon sort of taboo breaking, sort of transgressionary, Miss Moneypenny, transgendery, sort of stylistic narrative flourishes before. So it's not entirely new, and the film got a lot of critical applause. So yeah, I've seen it. I thought it was okay as a film. I didn't think it was any great shakes horror-wise. It did something different with the story, but not entirely different, if you know what I mean. Anyway, it is what it is. But Hammer has come back. And how many times have you heard that? Hammer's back. Well, Hammer is back, and there are more films in waiting in the wings. And I've discussed it before, done videos on this before, but I also mentioned that the other great stalwart horror studio of the 60s and the early 70s, well, in fact, into the 80s, barely, was Amicus. Amicus Films, of Milton Subotsky fame. The Vault of Horror, Tales from the Crypt, House of Dripped Blood, all that sort of stuff. Asylum, usually portmanteau movies. They were not as nasty, not as sexy as Hammer. They were more family friendly in a way, and yet they were cosily, quaintly sinister and macabre. They were great. They also put out one of my favourite films, again, of all time. God, how many favourite films of all time have I got? Too many! But the film that I've always talked about, and I've reviewed it, and I want to remake it. I've said this for many, many years. When I used to be writing for AV Forums, I had an idea in mind for a remake of The Beast Must Die. Yeah. The werewolf hunting thing. Yeah. Fantastic. I love it. It's cheeseball, corny, very dated, but I love it, and I have got a dynamite concept for how that could be reworked. But anyway, Lawrie, you're now in charge of Amicus, because you have consulted and you're working with the Subotsky family to reinvigorate Amicus. He has been digging through the earth. He's found the casket, and he's in the process of dragging out the carcass of Amicus and pumping new life into it, resurrecting it, giving it a rebirth. And he's got a film on the way. And again, this was done with a crowdfunding Kickstarter thing. Now I know what you think, and I was the same way. You know, if you can't get a film made with your own ideas and you've got a track record, do not film studios want to give you any money? Studio execs want to give you money? Fall over themselves to throw money at what is going to be obviously, a cash cow for them? Well, no, doesn't always happen. Does not happen. And in today's world, Kickstarters and crowdfunders are often ways of getting a film off the ground. And in effect, you will become producers of that movie as well, because you've had a hand and some dosh in doing so. Now, when Hammer got reinvigorated, the next thing you knew was Amicus, and it was Lawrie that was doing it. And I thought, this could be great. The two great film studios, horror studios of the 60s and 70s. My God, a rebirth. We want this. And what he's doing, and the film is now, it's in pre-production. They're building the sets for it right now. In the Grip of Terror, it's called. In the Grip of Terror. 4 stories. I don't know the full, it's a portmanteau, it's an anthology, and it's all around the idea of doctors, I believe. So it's people visiting doctors and being told horrific doctory stories from their sordid pasts, organ transplants and I don't know, other stuff. But it's based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft, Ambrose Bierce and someone else. But there's 4 stories, and so the cast is in place, I do believe. They're building the sets right now. I've seen lots of imagery of the sets being put together. So it's happening, folks. It's happening. Amicus is coming back. The Subotskis are definitely highly involved in this, which is great. So you've got the respect of those, and the sort of the official sort of stamp of approval from the originators. That's great. Can't go wrong with that. Now, Lawrie Brewster, I think reminds me of Larry Fessenden. Larry Fessenden, indie filmmaker of the likes of We Are Still Here, Late Phases. Late Phases, one of my favourite modern werewolf movies. I covered it a lot. Fantastic film. God, what else? Right now, I Sell the Dead. They're very Stakeland as well. They're very avant-garde, very sort of out there ideas of genre staples, zombies, vampires, werewolves, but with given the Innkeepers as well, a very sort of indie slant of characterizations of the people involved in it, which gives it an entirely new sort of vibe. And yet the horror is still hugely prevalent. We Are Still Here and Late Phases are fantastic. And Larry Fessenden has a new one out. Again, it's not out yet, but it's on the way. It's another werewolf one, but it's a traditional werewolf. It's like Lon Chaney in the Jack P. Pierce makeup called Blackout. Blackout meaning that when the cycle of full moon is on, our poor werewolf victim monster has a blackout and wakes up the next day. What have I done? And there's carnage everywhere. But it'll have that sort of bizarre slant to it, which Fessenden does. Now, Lawrie Brewster reminds me of Fessenden. He looks like Fessenden as well. Lawrie, no offense, but you do. You look like him. You resemble him, and he's a writer, producer, director, actor. Now, Lawrie's in some of these movies himself as well. He plays a torturer in The Slave and the Sorcerer, which does remind me of Robert Tessier in The Sword and the Sorcerer. Robert Tessier from The Deep and, oh my God, Mean Machine, and God, so many movies. Wonderful, wonderful, scary actor, but of Native American origin, and he's the torturer, and he cuts out his captives' tongues. You know, these had nothing to say, so I cut out their tongues, and they're all like pouring blood down their chins. And he's got some poor babe chained up in his torture dungeon, and she's like, oh no. And he's grinding a knife, you know, and a blade. He goes, "Don't worry, little girl, you won't hear until I hit the bone." It's fucking horrible, but he's great, Robert Tessier. And in The Slave and the Sorcerer, you've got Lawrie Brewster, the producer, is playing, I think, Argo or Arlo, the torturer. So you've got that going on. And again, the link with Larry Fessenden is the same, you know, because he'd often act in movies, produce, write, direct them. And wonderful, wonderful. I love people that can do this. You know, I'm going on about The Beast Must Die. I've written books before. I've been published. I won a literary award, for God's sake. And then I turned my back on the whole thing and became a complete and utter buffoon, an idiot, and went off and did my own stupid other angles on life, most of which came to nothing, some of which did, which we can't really talk about. But either way, I should have stuck with writing. I may go back to writing, but I want to do The Beast Must Die, a retake on that, a new adaptation of James Blish's original short story, The Beast Must Die. And soon there shall be darkness, and soon there will be darkness, and soon the darkness. There's darkness involved in that short story title somewhere. But and it's great. But the movie itself is outstanding, and I love it to bits. But it's so you couldn't tell that story again. You have to revamp it for today, and it would work with the same theme to it, but really. I've got my idea for it, so please come calling to Kilt-Man. Cheers, y'all. But please lend your support to these people. He's kickstarting, I hate to use that phrase as sort of away from the actual kickstarting campaign, but he's literally giving a kick up the arse of an old institution of great British filmmaking with American money, but they were mainly British movies. Amicus, fantastic. That legacy, I still watch those movies all the time, and they have their own particular peculiar flavour, very retro. And that also Lawrie Brewster has maintained, from what I've seen that he's said in interviews and that, is that he is going to maintain a retro sort of 70s, almost 60s vibe. They'll have a bit more makeup on, he wants to give that sort of vogue of the old Amicus movies with the portmanteau effect as well. And I think that's great. You're paying respect to what... You can't just remake these things and give them set it in modern day, and we're going to have all the new social meanings behind things, and you've got to change sensibilities. I'm not saying he's not going to do that, because I don't know, But if you're going to pay proper homage and give it a rebirth, you give the fans of Amicus what they want, and they want to see a portmanteau anthology with deliciously cutesy, nasty but not explicit, denouement to each character, and the big payoff at the end. The Amicus films were never gory. Well, yeah, there were some, the hearts, oh my god, yeah, piece of cushion, yes, I know. And there were some bits of blood, some severed limbs wrapped up in bags and things. It's not graphically gory, and that was what they did. They did a more, user-friendly, perhaps more family baiting sort of style, and yet their concepts and ideas were really nasty beyond belief. In fact, way nastier than what Hammer did. Hammer would show you the stuff, and Hammer was very blatant about things. Big boobs, tits, and Kensington gore, and we love it. Of course we do. Amicus did strike out in a different way, so I'm hoping that Lawrie Brewster will maintain that. Don't go down like the sort of Eli Roth route of like maybe nowadays, or the guy that does Terrifier movies, Damien Leone, and I love those. I love me gory movies, but Amicus isn't that. Amicus is something different. It's creepy. It's kind of cozy and quaint. There is a gap in the market for that right now. There is, and it's not Goosebumps or anything like that. They are adult movies with adult concepts and, despicable ideas and deceit, treachery, affairs, and but everyone, karma comes around, does it not? So that's the idea, the ethos behind it. So what you're going to get with this, In the Grip of Terror, which is it's a pure Amicus title, In the Grip of Terror. Sounds great. So I wish him all the best. I genuinely do. And I love Amicus movies. So I can't wait. Can't wait for it. I also can't wait for The Slave and the Sorcerer, because as daft as it looks, and that's meaning no offense, the fact is that we know he's harkening back to the dizzy, stupid movies of the 80s, with his OTT, muscle-bound guys who probably couldn't act. Well, they definitely couldn't act. Now, Lee Horsley, sort of Sorcerer, could act. He's great, and he's not muscle-bound, but my God, he got in shape for it. He's lean and lithe and athletic, but he looks amazing with his big wig on, because he had super curly hair. And no, Matt Houston, no, but he's wonderful in the part, and it does predate what you saw in Conan the Barbarian, because even Talon from Sword and the Sorcerer gets crucified, and he tears himself off the cross he's been crucified to fight back, and like pulls the nails out of the palms of his hands, and he's still able to wield that ridiculous bloody three-bladed explosive sword. But it works because it's capturing the adventure of Robin Hood and Errol Flynn, and he does look like Errol Flynn in that movie. Now, obviously, what Lawrie Brewster's gone for with The Slave and the Sorcerer, gone for the muscle-bound guy. And so, even though it's clearly inspired by Sword and the Sorcerer, it's visually, from our hero, it's the Conan style of the big bodybuilder, who's probably monosyllabic and delivers lines very badly. But that will be part of the fun. I'm totally and utterly convinced of it. So, please, give it your time of day. Check out that trailer. See what you think. And put your order in for the Blu-ray. Because, I know, I don't think there'll be much in the way of the Riddle of Steel in The Slave and the Sorcerer. Because there certainly wasn't much in the Sword and the Sorcerer. But it does have these sort of visual effects which harken back to Hawk the Slayer. Just pure digital, well, video effects of glowing balls and glowing laser beams. Sword had that as well, but it looked really good. Then Zusha, the sorcerer, does that with his fingers, and they glow and his eyes glow, and he pumping hearts burst, erupt out of people's chests. Oh, it's fantastic. And that scene towards the end where he's got Alana, Kathleen Bella, awesome Kathleen Bella, married to Thomas Dolby. Married to Thomas Dolby. A little Casio keyboard, plinkety plink plink, do 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 do. Married him. Well done, Thomas. Well done, sir. Well played. When he's got hair, he's been posing as someone else. Oh, spoiler alert! You know the movie anyway. He's been posing as Cromwell's military aide, and but he's not really. He's actually Zusha, but in human disguise. And George Maharis plays the military aide, but then he reveals himself and he cracks open in pure 80s. 82, 83, 84, it was body horror, it was prosthetics, it was animatronics, latex bladders and stuff going on, and blood bags. It was squirty, stretchy, fucking great stuff. And he goes and breaks his face apart. He says to it, "Let me show you, Alana, who I truly am." And he pulls all the skull flesh down, and his real demonic head comes out, and he shambles around with his. It's weird how when he's in the guise of this military aide, he can walk around quite sprightly and all that, but once he's pulled this guy up, he's like just a shambling fucking demon with like. I love it. We're going to do a watch party on The Sword and the Sorcerer. And at some point, it'd be great to do a watch party on The Slave and the Sorcerer. There was a sequel, the long-awaited sequel to The Sword and the Sorcerer, which Albert Pyon, thinking he was going to make enough money, and which well, it didn't work out that way. Did make money, but deals fell through, and his sequel didn't happen until, 3 decades later? Yeah, well, yeah. Several decades later, shall we call it. Tales of an Ancient Empire. Oh God, it was the worst thing ever. It was so disastrously bad. With Kevin Sorbo, Hercules, Kevin Sorbo was in there. Lee Halsey has a little minute cameo. It wasn't minute enough. He shouldn't have graced this turd with his presence. But he did. Which gave it a legacy connection to the original. Oh God, no! It was a travesty. It's not a full movie. It's a massively incomplete movie with really in-house, low budget, and I mean like your son working in the basement or the attic on his little old computer doing graphic effects. That's how it looked. So bad. And just made no sense. There was no story there. It was a ludicrous mess. Damn it. So at least we're now going to get like another, not maybe a sequel, but a cousin to The Sword and the Sorcerer. We can ignore Tales of the Ancient Empire, and we can look at The Slave and the Sorcerer as a companion or cousin piece to the original. Let's hope so anyway. Folks, I've got a madly rebellious strand of hair there, which will do its own thing for the rest of the day and probably piss me off to no end. But cheers, y'all. But I thought I'd do this video as a little sort of heads up, really, that I'll be doing a big Sword and the Sorcerer watch party, and also to big up Lawrie Brewster and his endeavours You've got Ridley Scott churning out movies left, right, and centre. He's leaking them out. He's literally, they're coming out of his pores. His dying, aged pores. Sir Ridley, what do you need? An enema, a bedpan, and another film's come out. Oh, another film is out there. He's just shoveling fucking shitty movies out all the time. No, good luck to you, Sir Ridley. I've loved so many of your movies, and yet so many of your later movies have been utter shite. Just saying, my opinion. Just my opinion. But it's great to see younger people, the people who are not in the studio, sort of the fold of a studio. They're not in that system. They're making films independently, and they're doing whatever they can to get their vision out there, which is why I don't knock Kickstarters or fundraisers, because what the hell, if a studio is not going to put the money up, but like, this can work, I can make this work, I've got such a belief in it, and I've got the people around me that I know and trust, we can make this happen, and it will be popular, it will make money. Well, okay, you're gonna turn your back on me. Well, okay, we've got the crowd, and I'm sure there's private investors as well who are gonna, obviously back this and other such endeavours, and that's how it works. And then the proof of the pudding is the film that comes out. But from what I've seen already, I'm massively behind this, and I think it'd be great. I'm hoping it'd be great. If I see it and go, oh shit. Well, I'll be honest, and I will say what I feel, but I've seen the trailer a good few times now, and yeah, it is off the wall. It's pure tropes, it's pure cliche, it's pure cheeseball. But you have to remember that that's exactly what he's trying to do. So the film is going to be like sort of Mel Brooks with, big swords and big muscles and sweaty body parts. I can't wait. Folks, happy New Year, shall be Kilt-Man, please. In the meantime, and as ever, sword swinging in between time. Please keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic. And I'm going to see you all in a blighted barbarian citadel near you. Laters. I can't just go yet. I've got big rosy apple cheek, haven't I? Like a proper old English rose. English? Fuck the English. I love you all, really. Everybody's welcome. Except one.